Hello everyone, hope you're doing great. You're welcome once again to my live stream. I'm sorry I've been off for a very long time, and this time I want us to get into what we're supposed to be doing right away. Let me just check to make sure I'm in my live. Am I live? Am I live? I can't see anything. Hello, am I live? Just confirming. Oh, just confirming. You'll excuse me. I'm taking some time to confirm. Okay, good. So YouTube told me I am live right now. So let's get into what you're supposed to be doing. You're so welcome to this live stream. Once again, my name is Joseph Apia, for those who had forgotten. I've been off since December 5th because I had my marriage preparations. Someone called Gerard Indairanya. Thank you so much for becoming a part of my community. Thank you for subscribing. And now that's to start right away. So today, basically what we're going to look at, we're going to, I think as usual, let's start with a folder. And in this folder, we're going to call it Learn HTML 7. So this is the 7th part of this lesson. So let's open it in Visual Studio Code. Open with code. So we have something that looks like this. Just a minute. Here we go. So previously we learned how to do a lot of things. Let me create my HTML file, index.html. We learned how to do a few things here and there, creating the HTML boilerplate. Let me just zoom in for those who are using smaller devices so you can be able to see well. Let me resize this. We learned how to create the HTML boilerplate. So we have this, Alt Z just to show this. And I will remember that we said these are not necessary for now because of what we are learning, even this. But because we are using an IDE, I'll just let them be in. So here we go. Okay, so here we are. And then we created our title. Let's say this is, today we're going to talk about HTML positioning. Actually, after some time, I will try to modify these videos in such a way that I have like the content of what we are learning in the description so that we can be able to get to know what to do now. So here we are, here we go. We've learned how to insert a title if you had forgotten. But for today, I want us to learn about HTML positioning. And everything that you insert into your HTML page actually takes up some space. And I'd want us to look at it from this perspective here. Let me just have this PowerPoint up and I show you what I mean. So this is how we can visualize everything in an HTML page. Every tag actually has this. Every tag has a border. I mean, you have the content itself, then it has some padding. That padding can be top padding, left padding, bottom padding, or right padding. After the padding, we shall go to the border. This space here is the border. We can have the top border, left border, bottom border, and right border. And then we have the margin. Now, margin is transparent. It's the white space after your border, after where your content ends. The border demarcates where your content ends, and the padding will always take up the background color in case you set the background color to your work. So now that we've learned about the box model, I want us to try out something small. I want us to go step by step and let's see what we are supposed to be doing. So previously also I said we are going to separate these two. We're going to have an HTML file alone, and let's call this style.css, and a CSS file. And this CSS file it will help us to do a lot of things here and there. So let me just go into my HTML and let me link it up to my style sheet, style.css, and let me just put in a few things here. Div, maybe put header, and I say h1 welcome. Let me just say let me call this Ginger SSS. This is a school in Jinja, Uganda, so by reference, let me put a pipe character by questioning, then pipe character again by service. Okay, let me view this in my web browser. Let me open with live server, and I have something that looks like this. Let me just put this to the right, and this comes to the left. So I have something that looks like that. So we are going to try to modify our code, and let's see what we get. So let me just zoom this in and let's see what we get. So let me have div.main, something like this, and I say maybe h2, heading 2, and below heading 2 I need to have a paragraph with 50 words, something like this. Let me zoom this out. So if I go into my style sheet using the universal selector, which I told you guys last time, if I say I want that universal selector to give it the following properties, I want to give it a border of 1 pixel, solid, and let me say dashed blue in color. Has this worked? Happening? Border 1 pixel, solid and dashed can't be together, sorry. I think that's why I was talking about soda here and there. So if you look at this now, every single tag that we entered into our HTML actually has some kind of border on it. Now that border is dashed. We could choose to make it solid, and it would look like this. And see this, or you can choose to make it dotted, and it would look like this. But for now, let's just have a dashed one and let it look like that. So let's try out something. If I say all my div tags, div, let me say, I'm going to give them a background color of let me use a color that is shouting, this one here. Let me see, just to confirm. So I have div. So let me give them each a padding, or maybe no, let me not do it this way. Let me make it easier for us to visualize this. Let me change this to h1. So just the heading 1. I gave it a color of aqua, and we can see that the color is within the padding. If I increase on the padding, maybe let me say padding, and I say I need to be 30 pixels. You will notice that this padding is actually within this tag. I could choose to say I only want padding top, something like this. You only see that padding on top, or I could say padding left. See what happens? The left gets the padding, or I could say padding bottom, and therefore the bottom would get the padding. Still, if I would say I want to give this one a border, maybe this time let me use border bottom, maybe solid, maybe black. See what will happen? It has actually gotten a border bottom of solid, and black. Let me get this out so we can visualize a lot of things here and there. So you can see that the border comes after the padding, excuse me. The border comes after the padding. So you can see the border is here at the edge. Let me give it a margin too. Margin. And give it a margin of also 30 pixels just for us to see what's happening. You can see that margin has actually become the white space around our tag. So let's say maybe I'll give my div tag, let's say div, I want to give it a color of, background color, color of, let's say, let me use blue violet, shouting color. See what will happen. The padding around the H1 is actually absolutely transparent, just like what I had showed you previously. So with that said, I want to modify this code a bit and then move step by step, and let's see what we get. All right, so let me just offload my RAM a bit. Let me close a few things here and there and save this, close this. Yeah, I'm just trying to offload my RAM. So let me have this. Let me give this div of div with a height of 50 pixels. Okay, that has been squashed in. Width of 100 pixels. Width of 100 pixels. Let me give it a border of 2 pixels. Oh, sorry, I'm typing as I speak. Border of 2 pixels solid black. Excuse me. Okay, that's what we get, and I need a border radius. Oh, sorry, I forgot my semicolon. Of 5 pixels. Okay, so let me get into, actually let me do this. Let me have a few IDs. One, let me give it a background color of red. Background color of red. Then let me do this. Let me just do this a bit. So copy is 3. Oh, sorry, my keyboard is faulty. When I went away for Christmas, I think it also went on holiday, and maybe it didn't work. All right, so 2, let's give it a background color of blue. Background color of blue. Actually, let me convert them to hex code. How would I do it? Just point at this. When this comes, just click on this and it will change. Red, same story. Black, same story. Blue, same story. Save this. Okay. Then for 3, I want to give it a background color of gold. Background color of gold. Let me just switch it to hex code. Okay, good. And then background color, let me use hash 3080 14. That's some sort of light green. And now with that said, let me do something small here. Let's learn a few things about positioning, and then I'll get you so much into into what we are supposed to be doing. So let me just create 4 div tags. Let me minimize this. So I want to create 4 div tags having IDs 1, 2, 3, and 4. There's a shortcut you can use. You can just say div and hash for class Just call it 1, then times 4. I have 4 div tags. I only need to change these to 2, 3, and 4. After doing this, we shall see that I have 4 div tags here. Each one of them has a different background color. Let's learn a few things about how we can make our elements to take up some space. So let's go into our CSS and let's go into this div section and let's give it a display of block. When you set your div tags to have display block, you'll realize that nothing has changed, because actually this is the default display that your HTML will have. How about if I change this to inline block? Inline block, something like this. You'll realize that it will actually change your div tags to be side by side. So what would happen if I had more div tags? Let me just make a copy of these. Alt Shift arrow down. So you'll see that it's having so many of them. They are all now being put in the space that is available. They squeeze themselves into the space that is available. So you can be able to generate div tags. Div tags by default are block elements, which means they cover up a whole line. But then now when we change the display style to inline block, it makes them use up the space that's available that they can fit in. All right, we have another kind of a display style called inline. Let me get this out like this and save this. It will squash all the divs into the same line and you'll see just one single dot. Now this is useful when you're making things like navigation bars. It allows you to put several block elements in the same line, and basically inline values place all your elements next to one another, but not as blocks, but they keep their they only don't keep their dimensions, sorry. So that's about inline block. Let's try to use none. Display none. When you set the display to none, it totally hides off something. So assuming I want let's say something to hide when a screen reaches a certain value, I could do a simple media query and say once the media, maybe when the screen becomes the size of that of a phone, you should hide this, change the display to none. We shall see how we shall be able to do that as we go on. Now let's talk about margins, borders, and padding. Let's start with margins. Now we began by setting our borders in this. Let me just comment this out. Just a reminder, to comment out things you can use Ctrl and /, it comments them out. And let me get back to my HTML and just undo this. I can only have 4 of these. All right, so just a reminder, I was saying, so when you are dealing with your HTML, you need to know how to position it. And we started by learning how we can put them side by side, one after the other, and all that kind of thing. But then now we are trying to learn something where we are able to modify the margin, the padding, the border, and all that. So how do we deal with the margin? Assuming I go to my div and I give them all these, I give these divs a margin top, as it said, margin of 50 pixels. Let me use an exceedingly big value. See what will happen. It will put a lot of white space around them. Now, if I was to have the other display still display, I say inline block, or sorry, not font display. This one a display. Inline block, something like this. You'd see that it has to always give itself 50 pixels of padding before it can think of getting to any empty position that it can fit in. So it's the dimension plus the 50 pixels. But when I get this to 0, see what will happen? It will just align itself because there's no more margin. So We can adjust margin right. Let me make this 10 pixels like this. We can adjust the margin on the left like this, margin left. See what will happen? Only the margin on the left is affected, but you won't see it clearly here. I wish I could, not even I wish, let me just do it. Okay, so we have this. If I change this 10 pixels to 20 pixels, see, they are moving towards the right. 60 pixels, they're moving towards the right. Now, if I do margin right, you will not see it right now because I have a lot of white space this way. But if I do something like margin bottom, margin bottom, you'll actually see it happening. You can see here this border here, the thing has 0 padding on it, but down here it has left a lot of space, so it's the same thing for each one of them. Even if I would do margin top, it would still give me the same thing. Sorry, top. Something like this. You can see the top has been given a lot of space, and at the bottom there is no space. So that is about margins. We can adjust margins in any way that we want. Also, if we do borders, like look at this. In this case, we did something like border 2 pixels solid, that. Assuming I say hey, by the way, if you do not know, if you set the border radius to 50%, it makes all the sides curved. So which means if I would have something like 100 pixels by 100 pixels, I would have circles, real circles, and that is cool. Let me comment this out, and let me have my circles there. Later I will adjust them further. So I was saying, now if I was to say I want to modify the border, let's say of 1, I could say I want to give it a border bottom. Maybe I could say 30 pixels solid, maybe maroon. See what would happen. See this? It would totally adjust this and actually give it a border. Let me change this back to 5 pixels, 5px, and see how it looks. See that? So literally it has created a border there, and this border is actually okay, nothing can sit on it, just a visible line. So if I had set it to something like transparent, maybe let's say I could say maybe RGBA. Let me get rid of this hash, and I say RGBA. I want it to be, what am I adjusting? I'm adjusting something else. Let me change. So this is what I wanted. I wanted to give it something like an RGBA. Let me just modify this. Excuse me, RGBA, and then I give it an alpha of 0. To see what would happen, it will still show the background color. Why? Because the border has gone. Let me make this 20 pixels and you see what would happen. This kind of thing, the border down here is actually totally transparent, but if I would kind of raise it up and maybe get rid of this, let me make this 1. See what would happen? The border bottom gets this color. So you're able to adjust the borders in any way you want. So you can work with border bottom, border top, border right, border left. Now at the end of this, I'll show you certain shortcuts that we can be able to use. The next thing I want to talk about is padding. What is padding? Padding is the space around the content which is not yet before the border. Like we have the content, then the padding, then the border, then the margin. So like let's say for example in this 2, I give it a padding of 30 pixels. 30 pixels. It will literally create more space for the thing inside. And yeah, there is a shorthand. There is shorthand that we can use, not a shorthand, but shorthand that we can use. For example, if I want to define border width, let me use all these, all the divs. Let's say I want to say I want to give it a border. Let me just put your values and you see what happens. 10, 20, 30, 40. Now let me start with 10 and 40, just like this. Make them pixels just to make sure this thing works out. I know these new versions of HTML can understand what we're saying, but we might need to talk about some of the things. So let me get rid of these like this. So 20 pixels like that. I'm still not seeing what I wanted to see. That's the advantage of watching live, because in case anything goes wrong, you can easily see how I troubleshoot it, and that will help be of too much help to us when we, excuse me, it will be of very good help to us when we get to learn how to do things. So I was saying, excuse me, let's leave this and let's do something else. Let me use padding instead. Let me say padding, no, let me use a margin. Let me go to 3. I want 3. Let me say margin. If I say I want a margin of 40 pixels like this, you'll see that 40 pixels has been applied all around this yellow box. How about if I said I want 40 pixels and 20 pixels? What will happen? The 40 pixels will be applied to the Y up and down, and the 20 pixels to the left. So let me just give this a display of an inline block, and then you see what will happen exactly. So let me zoom this out a bit. Okay, good. And I think I should also double this up. Then I'm using 3, so let me double this. And also let me have this. Okay, so I want us to see this one here. Let me go back to 3 and is it 3? No, 2. 2, I want to get rid of this padding. Okay, then also 1, I want to get rid of border bottom. So I have all of them here. So you can see that this, I gave it margin of 40 pixels by 20 pixels, meaning 40 pixels is for the top and the bottom, and 20 pixels for the left and the right. Let me try to invert them. Let me make this 10 and make this 50. See what happens. The 10 go to the X and Y, and the 50 go to, I mean, the top and the bottom, and the 50 go to the left and the right. Now, if I want to explicitly define borders for the top, the left, the bottom, and the right, I'll just say maybe at the top I want 10 pixels, on the left I want 50 pixels, the bottom I want 0 pixels, and on the right I want 15 pixels. Did I use 15? Now let me use 60 pixels just to make it big so you can see it. See what will happen. Wait, in which order is it applying? It's applying with top, then right, then bottom, then left. So top, right, bottom, left. Now, one good thing about using margins and whatsoever is that you can give these things negative margins. For example, I can give this negative 50 pixels. See what will happen? It will actually lie to this div that, you know what, this guy here is away by 50 pixels. So literally with that trick, I can superimpose one thing onto another. I can superimpose one thing onto another, and I'm able to do a lot of cool things here and there. Like for example, you can see I've hidden this card behind this, and all these are still in line. Why? Because I gave the left, the right negative 60 pixels and the left 60 pixels. So it's like it's peeping from behind the other card. And I could also say maybe for the green one, I want to give it padding top of 30 pixels. Oh, is it padding? No, margin. Oh, it's just pushing everything down, everything in the second line. But hope you're okay with what we're learning. So these values can be negative both for margin, for padding, for borders. They can all be negative. Let's learn about floating. I would wish to teach you about floating, but floating is not being used so much. Floating things to the left, floating things to the right. I think because of that, I'll just show you how to do these floating things here and there, and then we shall I will teach you later how to use CSS grid, because CSS grid is more powerful and does a better job than floating. So let's do this. Let's just create something like a dashboard. So let me have a div main. Okay, in my main I want to have dot header, and then my header I want to have welcome to my website. So let me see this. Okay, let me get rid of these tiles completely. I don't need them. Okay, welcome to my website. I will need this to be an H1. So Control X, V. Maybe I don't want to call everything always welcome to my website. Let me just say ginger senior boundary. Cool. Then a paragraph below it by reference. Let me use commas by questioning and by service, like this. Okay, so I have that. Then below my header I have a main, and in my main I have a sidebar. Yes, say dot sidebar, and then below the sidebar I have my dot content. Okay, then I need to put my footer below the main. Like this, and copy. Copy. Maybe I could also put the year 2022, something like this. So I have this, and inside my sidebar I want to put in some unordered list, UL, and then LI, then A tag. This one goes to home. Okay, home. Be good. So let me something like that. So about what? No, let me say blog and contact. Okay, so we have this, and let's see what we have. Let's see what we have. Good. So in our content, I want to put here an H2 sample. No, let me just use lorem 5, and then P lorem 50, and then below that H2 lorem 7, P lorem 40, and another P lorem 60. So I have something that looks like this, and I want this to look like a real website. So let's try to style it using our tags, and let's see what we can get. So I want my body to have a font family of let me use good font. Let me use Gill Sans. I always like using sans serif fonts, so the whole page has that kind of font. So first and foremost, I want to go up here and look at my header, and I need the class called header. So to select a class, if you remember, like this, header, and I want to give it a background color of Bollywood something. Okay, so Bollywood, and it's to be darker. So how do I go about it? I prefer to use HSL for doing that. So with my HSL, I want my lightness to be at 40. It's thicker. Okay, 20. Okay, so I need the font to be white. Good. I want to give it a padding. Now we're using our padding of not padding top, but just padding of 30 pixels. Good. And I want to have it, give it a text align of center. Okay, that is good. Also, I want between H1 and P to have a horizontal rule. I have this horizontal line. Good. So let's work on our main. With main, and has to work specifically on oh wait, we're in main already. Oh wait, div class main. Now let me just say main content like that. Let me just test it. So main content, I want to give it background color of gray. Okay, good. So I see that I have something here. So let me take it to HSL so I can raise my lightness to 80%. Yeah, so I can work while I know what I'm doing. All right, so what we want to do is we want to make sure that the sidebar takes 20% of the page on the left, and the main content, the content part, takes the remaining 80%. So what shall I do? I have sidebar here. Let me come here and say I want to get my sidebar, and I want to give it background color of gray. Then I want to switch it to HSL and make it darker, give it like 20%, and then I give it a color, white, and then text decoration, and then I need to get what let me show you something here. This is part of our branching. I want to get what's in the sidebar, ULLI, or maybe let me just give these A's classes. So I'll use alt, click on the next one, click on the next one, on the next one. So let me give it a class of nav link, something like this. Let me zoom out a little bit. Hope you can still see what I'm doing. So that class nav link, I'm actually trying to give it something. So let me come down and say anything called nav link. I want you not to have any text decoration, and I want it to be given color of white. Good. Finally, I got it. All right. So still, I want to get this li and give it as a class. I hold down alt, click on this, click on this, click on this. I want to give this a class of nav list. So I want that class nav list to have a list style type of none. So I do not have those. All right, then I want to give it margin of 0 and a padding, not padding top, but rather padding of 0, and okay, let's just say 0 pixels. Okay, I want to decorate the things further. So how will I go about it? How about if I give these 20 pixels each? Okay, let me give them oh wait, yes, 5 pixels is okay, and I want to give them border solid white. I want to give it 1 pixel. Okay, should I use this nav list? Okay, let me make give it some pseudo selector dot nav list hover. No, when I hover over it, I want to give it a background color white and a color maroon. No, let me use black. So let's see. No, I'm not getting anything here, so let me kill this. Control X. I need to give it to this. So nav link dot nav link over, and I say when I hover over it, I want to give it a color of black, just like that. Let's see. Okay, that is a good effect. All right, so that is that. And then now let me give this sidebar. Where's my sidebar? Let me give it a width of 20%. Okay, so that is good. And then I want sidebar have a height of let me give it a height of now let me give it a vertical height vh, no height, sorry, 100 vh. Okay, I have that. Now the sidebar is 20%. Now let me get my content. Let me put it near this one here. Content. Okay, sorry, I forgot the dot. Okay, the content, I want to give it a background color of use burley wood. What you get? Okay, good. Give it a padding of 20 pixels. Sorry, small error. 20 pixels, okay. Then let me give it a width of 80%. Still it's down this way. Because it's 20%, this is 80%. Okay, let's keep going, and let me give it a height of 100 VH. Height 100, vertical height, or the view height. Now I'm still trying to, let me make this smaller. Let me just make it 70. I'm still trying to make sure that I can have this go up, but it is failing. The only trick I can use to do that is if I float this to the left, float the left. See what will happen? It will literally allow this to come under it. Actually, it is creating, giving itself space, so whatsoever is here is actually not being utilized. I could float it to the right. See what will happen? See what has happened? It has gone to the right and it has left for us this space this way. I could also choose to say maybe and to float both of them to the right. What will happen is that they will automatically manage themselves. They will automatically manage themselves and leave space that, and leave all the remaining space to everything else. So let me float this to the left and float the other one to the right. And let me increase this from 70 to 80. That is too much for it. Let me reduce it to 25. Still 75, 72. Okay, let me just leave this like this. I don't want to do anything more than this because yeah, might confuse you the more. All right, so now you'll notice that when I float one to the left and one to the right, there's something that happens. Let me reduce this to 70. You'll see that this copyright symbol has actually moved all the way from the footer up that way. Someone will ask me, how will I then be able to make sure that my footer fits within my content? Like my footer should be at the bottom and should never leave the bottom. With that, we have to do what we call clearing the float. Now, that problem always happens when you have floated things on your page. They're actually taken like they are floating. Everything else can fit in any available space. So when it is floating, it means the space on the ground is actually left for it. So how do we do it? We shall create a div tag before our footer. Where is that div? Here. Shall just create a div tag and let's call it clear float. After doing that, then we can get back to our CSS and let's do something and you see what will happen. So let me go to .clear float. When we are clearing float, we can clear float on the right. See what will happen when I clear it on the right? It will make sure that this is not having anything on the right. Like if what's on the right should leave it. Or I can clear what's on the left. Oh, excuse me, my keyboard is kind of misbehaving. So it will only clear as long as it's this on the left, which is beyond, which is going beyond the bottom. Beyond its top. All right, then you can clear both. So what that will do is it will always be below everything. And so that is okay. So let's do something with our footer. Let me just work on the footer. Let me just do something simple here. Footer, and our footer, I want to give it a color of white and then background color of black, and then see, footer color white, like this. Okay, then a padding of 20 pixels. Then if I save, let's see, and then our text align, enter. So we have it like this. So now the issue we have is we have to, okay, most of this is corrected. I don't want to take you any further than that. So today basically we've learned how to clear floating elements and all that kind of thing. Now another thing that we need to learn, and this is very important because I see it nowadays used so much, is about positioning, absolute and all this other kind of absolute, fixed and relative positioning. I don't know if I should do it right now, but this is also something which is very important. Let me just see how long we've been online. Let me see. Oh, 15 minutes already. I always want these lessons to be very short, but since this is the first one, let me talk about no, let me not do it. Yeah, it would be okay if I would do it, but I feel let me not go further than 1 hour, which I'd planned. So just a recap of what we learned today. We learned how to basically use excuse me, we learned how to make things take up space, either using a block, inline or none. None was used for hiding. The default one is block. And then after that we talked about margins, borders and padding, and I told you we can adjust the top padding, the bottom padding, the left padding, the right padding, or we can do the same for margin and border. Then I told you we can also use negative values. Then the last one we did here was we were floating items. We're floating to the left, floating to the right, and you know, yeah, that makes, you can really make something that looks cool with just a little code. So that is that. So we learned also how to float the left, right, and clear float. Next time when we meet, I want us to talk about absolute, fixed, and relative positioning. And if you've come this far, thank you so much for watching this video. I encourage you to subscribe to this channel. I am a teacher by profession, and I teach at a low speed. I don't teach so fast because I always make sure that at least let people understand what you're teaching, because you might be teaching yourself. So I try not to teach myself, and I try to make sure that everyone who's watching can understand something. So thank you so much for listening, and thank you so much for hanging around up to this time. May you be blessed, and may God bless you. Remember, we're in the last days and the world is ending soon, so prepare your way with the Lord. Have a great time.